Perfect. Thank you so much, Aeryn, for joining. This is like zkMe's first video series for case studies. So we use this format to invite a couple of our most prestigious Lighthouse customers, and super happy to have you join today. So,
Yeah,
Aeryn, why don't you say something about yourself, about Xion Global, and just give us like a rough introduction on what you do.
yeah, sure. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, obviously pleased to be here. Thanks for obviously inviting me to it. Yeah, I guess kind of starting from the beginning, I'm the co-founder and COO at Xion Global. Really, what we do and what we offer is Web3 payments infrastructure. Otherwise, some payment providers say, Web3 payments orchestration. But really, at the end of the day, is we allow payment service providers, financial service providers, and different clients of ours the ability to accept crypto payments. The ability to pay essentially from a variety of different blockchain networks with instantaneous stablecoin settlement. All API driven. We have white label solutions. We have full reconciliation on our platform. Yeah, a whole lot of different levels to it, really. Yeah, I think to date, I would say we're one of the largest crypto payment providers throughout Africa. We have got quite a substantial client base to date with these integrations. Now standing at the moment, we have about 612,000 merchants that are actively accepting crypto payments within South Africa. And yeah, just expanding on a day-to-day basis.
Nice. Yeah, it was super inspiring when I first had a touch point with you guys. Very clear focus, very clear, go-to-market strategies. I've talked to to a lot of payment providers in the industry, and I always have the feeling some of them are trying to bite a little bit more than they can chew. And I really like that you have this clear focus. Before we get a little bit into like challenges that you faced, what led you to this project? Like, what was the trigger? What is the background story for that?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting background story. So back in the day, we used to, my brother and I, we used to do a lot of different e-commerce stores. I mean, this was even just before the whole 2017 crypto boom. And we essentially were selling a whole lot of different online products in the US, in the EU, and we were using both PayPal and Stripe as one of our payment providers to accept payments for subscription box based payments. I mean, we for instance knew nothing of phishing, and we started a phishing subscription box where you could essentially buy a whole lot of reel and tackle and gear that's delivered to your doorstep every month. So that was scaling very fast, and the biggest problem we had was, one, we couldn't enable subscription-based payments for it, especially locally within South Africa. Even though the predominant user base was obviously within EU and US, that was one of the challenges we faced. So there wasn't really any easy way to start accepting subscription-based payments. Secondly, we were processing payments through PayPal, and this is, we were getting nearly 1,000 subscribers per day. Business was growing very fast. And then one day, PayPal decided to lock our funds. Couldn't pay suppliers, couldn't do anything, customer disputes just flying in, churn rates were through the roof. And funny enough, we found a loophole, and we were able to refund all of the amount of money that was locked back into our suppliers' accounts, who then paid us out. Within minutes, PayPal unlocked our account. So that was a very defining moment for us to look and say, okay, well, we want to make sure that we could allow anyone like us as sole entrepreneurs to be able to accept payments very easily and freely, and actually be owners of your funds in your accounts once settled. So this obviously was a whole drive towards non-custodial payments, being your own bank, the whole fundamentals of blockchain. So that's really what drove us into really like researching what's in the market, just seeing who's doing what. And then, yeah, eventually it got us to Xion Global, which is now enabling payments for not just on a freelancer basis, but for bigger corporations that is driving towards the same narrative, is that as a merchant, I want to be in control of my funds at the end of the day. And I don't want anyone else to be able to move funds out of my account, but still being in a regulated and controlled and secure environment to be able to handle these settlements and incoming payments. So that was like the big foundation of why we built Xion Global, and actually how it came to fruition.
Interesting. And I mean, e-commerce and payment is like a very different beast. What were the challenges in like building a payment solution that obviously from a regulatory perspective has a very different footprint? Like, what was the most obvious challenge that you faced?
You know, if I really look at the biggest challenge we faced, it was mainly the technology, like evolution of, you know, wallet interactions, which is one of the biggest things. So when you're talking about blockchain-based payments, you know, crypto-based payments, there's all these challenges that where when users want to perform payments, they want it to be as easy, or if not easier, than current payment you know, solutions out there like card, Apple Pay, Google Pay. So the biggest challenge we had was being able to give the users that exact same experience, that exact same interface, so that, for instance, we can enable one-click crypto payments. So the biggest challenge we've had over the years is the evolution of that technology and being able to provide our clients with the same sort of experience, making sure it's secure and everything else, you know, behind it. So that evolution of technology was one of the biggest hurdles we've had to overcome. And luckily, over the last year or so, that technology actually came into fruition, and we've been able to do, you know, for instance, one-click crypto payments from nearly any network, you know, predominantly EVM-based networks, soon non-EVM, that's in our current roadmap. But technology was a big thing that was blocking us. Regulation, for sure, does come into play quite a bit, especially when you're dealing with these big payment service providers and financial institutions like banks. When it comes to regulation, especially when you're dealing with a sort of non-custodial payment solution, it is there's a lot of skepticism on it. You know, what procedures do you have in place to make sure that no illicit funds are entering, you know, these big payment service provider ecosystems and these banks?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what other steps do you have in place to ensure that you can handle, you know, customer disputes if a refund needs to be issued? There's so many different things, and then obviously just coming down to just the fundamentals of flow of funds. How do the flow of funds work? Do you issue custodial wallets, you know, to your clients?
Mm-hmm.
These sorts of things really start to play a very crucial factor when it comes to regulation, and that we've had to make sure we could overcome whilst remaining decentralized but regulated and within a secure environment, so that at the end of the day, you know, like I'm doing in South Africa right now, I haven't used my bank card in the last 2 months. I've been paying for crypto everywhere, from buying coffee to buying, you know, medicine to groceries to paying for my petrol, and doing it all within one click, you know, because I've already linked my MetaMask wallet. So those are the two biggest areas. I would say technology evolution and the regulation side were the biggest challenges that we faced.
Interesting. And I mean, obviously on the regulation side, you've decided to partner with external partners such as zkMe.
Yes.
What was the most important like criteria? Like, what were you hoping in achieving by partnering with zkMe, for example?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a very critical part of payments, is source of funds check. So source of funds check, you know your transactions. That's a very key part when it comes to, you know, payments within these already established payment service provider ecosystems. You know, like I said, one of our payment service providers, they have over 600,000 merchants alone. So when you're dealing with that, and you're dealing with MetaMask wallets, Trust wallets, you know, Wallet Connect, basically the whole non-custodial side of things, even custodial, it is making sure that no illicit funds can obviously enter these ecosystems, so that they are thoroughly vetted before payments can be performed, but not hindering the whole user journey to actually, you know, get to performing payments, so that you don't have these very strict and rigorous KYC procedures just to perform a payment. If I go now and I want to buy something online, or if I want to go pay with my card, I don't have to go and fill in a whole lot of information just before I can pay. So by utilizing zkMe, our biggest thing was we first need to make sure that it's very versatile and interoperable between all different networks. So as we expand our payment methods from Polygon USDT to AVAX to Optimism to all these different EVM and eventually non-EVM based networks, that the provider like zkMe can support us with that, so that we can say, okay, I'm about to purchase something, through one of Xion's clients. As soon as I click pay, after I've linked my wallet, I want to make sure that as I click pay, as a client, as a merchant, as a regulator, that there's an immediate check done on that wallet address to see where have these funds come from, and having the different sort of risk appetites and profiles in place to obviously implement for these specific clients before payment can actually even be processed. So that's one of the biggest things, is the interoperable side of the networks. The second biggest thing and most attractive thing for us was obviously the actual amount and how much we are charged per individual KYT check per wallet. So the amazing thing, what we've seen with zkMe, is obviously being able to do that check the first time, which is paid for, and then essentially being able to do continuous checks for as many different payments for the same client's wallet address as possible without getting charged with ridiculous rates. So those are the two biggest things for us, was the interoperable side of things, and the fees that you guys charge are just next to none. We haven't been able to find anyone better than that can give us better rates. And for us, as we expand, we're all about multi-chain payments. We're all about being able to pay with any token from any network with instantaneous stablecoin settlements at points of sale, at the payment. So with the KYT API that we use from you guys, being able to implement that in our payment APIs has been able to allow us to comply with regulators, to make sure that our payment service provider clients feel safe with any funds entering their ecosystem, but bringing in a whole new Web3 market. So yeah, those are the biggest things. And obviously that's why we partnered with you guys, and happy to be working with you guys, and obviously expanding with you as we expand our clients and payment methods throughout the globe.
Thank you so much for this feedback. One of our biggest theses is actually that we want to be the most scalable compliance solution on the market. Like, we believe there's so much inefficiency in the compliance landscape at the moment. Data that is readily available and is almost public is currently being sold at extremely high surcharges, and it doesn't have to be, right? We believe in a future market in which billions of people transact payments via crypto, and it's not going to be sustainable if every single transaction has like transaction costs of $2+ So we believe in those cent per transaction kind of levels for payment. And then the second biggest value proposition or thesis of zkMe is that we believe in the ethos of Web3, right? We believe that a compliance solution can be decentralized, meaning it's not up to us as a company to be like the gatekeeper that decides who gets to pass, who doesn't get to pass. So customers of ours usually would not have to trust us as a company, would rather have to trust the code that we deliver. So we try to embrace that decentralization ethos. A couple of questions in regards to like the whole onboarding experience. Like, as one of the first payment providers that has onboarded zkMe, how did that onboarding procedure look like? Like, how did you come to find us? How did the onboarding procedure look like? What are you looking to expand for in the future?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we really just found you guys from just doing our research, I guess, on Google and just searching through different providers. And And actually, no, now that I think of it, no, that's actually not how we found you. We found you through Polygon. So obviously Polygon being our close partners, and being supporting us, we built on their network, on Polygon POS, as a core payments and settlement network. So obviously through them, we actually posed a few questions. Said, guys, look, we've got these current providers that are integrated with us, but we need to make sure that we can scale, and that we can scale not just in terms of the transaction throughputs that are going to be coming through, but the actual network support and everything beyond that. So Polygon obviously did the intro to you guys, highly recommended you, especially from just really the whole self-sovereign side of things. That's the biggest key part and key takeaway when it comes to payments, especially. As we evolve, we want to make sure that we're in control. When we're performing payments, whatever it may be, even just holding money in our accounts, we want to make sure that we're always in control. So they did the intro. The onboarding process with you was very smooth, very quick. Your documentation was very thorough. We were able to integrate you guys, fairly quickly. And then, on the month-to-month basis, obviously getting very detailed reporting of exactly which, wallet addresses have been KYT'd, which obviously helps us from an invoicing perspective to our clients, because we obviously charge them for, KYT rates for any new, consumers that are, transacting through their app. So onboarding very smooth. You guys have given us amazing support, especially through Telegram. Anything we need, you're always on point. And obviously, as we expand with any new features, I know we can obviously work together to, whether it's networks, whether it's, eventually expanding to offering sort of self-sovereign KYB verification processes in future, Polygon ID, all those sorts of things that we can start tapping as well, and just expanding and offering that as a service to our clients. So overall, very, very good experience.
Thank you so much, Aeryn. Like, we're really looking forward to expand the features that we can provide. Like, obviously, KYC is a big topic that we cover, but also the business verification, as you mentioned, is probably going to be really critical in expanding the not only on your customer side, but maybe also on your provider side, the network that you can offer. Since we only have a couple of minutes left, let's maybe do one or two deep dive questions looking into the future.
Sure.
So you mentioned you're mostly focusing on South African market. You will expand out of that. How do you see the European market, especially now that MiCA is being implemented and MiCA having probably really, really big implications to your service? What do you foresee would be the biggest challenges in the next 6 months with the implementation and enforcement of MiCA?
Sure. MiCA, obviously very big discussion amongst all the different stablecoin providers. From our perspective, we join forces with Tether because it's the same ethos that we all believe in, especially on the non-custodial decentralized payment routes. However, obviously MiCA does come into effect and can obviously have a large impact on that. But as we look to expand, from South Africa, throughout Africa, Dubai, and then looking at EU side of things and rest of world, it really just is on a case-by-case basis. Especially with MiCA, which stablecoin providers are the best to use in the certain jurisdictions, or can be used on a regulation standpoint. And for us, we're versatile. So when it comes to adding new payment options coming in, very versatile. With our multi-chain APIs and ecosystem that we've built with a lot of different bridging providers and so forth, we can add new tokens, new stable coins on the fly, but remaining obviously regulated when it especially comes down to KYT, when it comes down to all different sort of tracking that we need to implement for any payments in certain jurisdictions. So for us, it's definitely an impact on a MiCA front, but we're versatile. So it really just is dependent. If say for instance, we can only look at having a specific stable coin for a certain jurisdiction, our technology supports that. So it really is just saying, these providers can be used for this jurisdiction or that jurisdiction as we expand. And within South Africa right now, this was obviously just really a starting point for us. We are a global based entity. We can perform payments anywhere, as we're essentially plumbing. We're an aggregation payments orchestration service. So we don't deal with legal tender. We are specifically looking at expanding the crypto payments and stablecoin payments Web3 ecosystem through all the different aggregators, so that we can just add each individual one as we need based on different regulations. If licensing is needed in certain jurisdictions, then obviously we're going for that. But even now with our licensing within South Africa, that is the building blocks for us to expand to all the other different jurisdictions from CASP or VASP licensing. But like I said, we're plumbing. So at the end of the day, we may not even need licensing because we don't deal with legal tender and the way of flow of funds and all of that. So yeah, for sure. I think a lot of companies get very scared of MiCA, especially stablecoin issuers. It's a very big impact for sure. Just making sure you know how to play it, making sure you're using the right providers, the right security checks in place, travel rule, all of those different things come into play. And as long as you have that and your compliance and your security and your technology is versatile, like we are, then really there's just it never stops rolling. The ball never stops rolling.
I like the anecdote. Like, we're just plumbing, and whoever uses our infrastructure is the one that will have to do these kind of checks. We take a very similar approach. Like, we believe for MiCA, we need to be ready to provide the necessary tooling. But I think you hit on the two most important things. One of them is obviously making sure that you fall within a certain jurisdiction, or maybe even if you want to avoid a certain jurisdiction, you have the tooling to make sure that you do not enter that market. So one of the solutions that we actually provide is a proof of location that is like an expansion of a proof of residence, just to make sure that a certain wallet or the ownership of a wallet is within a certain jurisdiction scope or not, so that you as a payment provider or as an infrastructure provider can tell your customers, this user falls within that scope or does not fall within that scope, and then certain checks can be applied or cannot be applied. And then probably most important is, our second most important is going to be travel rule implementations. We, and this is maybe a little bit of a scoop in this interview, are working on a very Web3 native way to do travel rule, just to ensure, in crypto transactions, you don't want to be sending plain text information on the sending and recipient party. We will have a solution that is fully encrypted, in which you just send an abstract token that certain data has been collected, which is within the like the wording and the spirit of the law, and then will allow payment providers to say, like, I have mathematically made sure that I did collect the data on the recipient and the sending entity, but I'm not sending you the plain text information. I'm just sending you like a token that can be used in case of bad actor proceedings. But as long as there are no bad actor proceedings, the entity stays anonymous. So that's a little bit our philosophy on how we will.
Yeah, that's amazing. It goes exactly with our thesis in our company and where we're going with it as well. So that's why for us, that's obviously a good partner to have, so that as we expand, especially in different jurisdictions, we can obviously make sure that we can have a bit more information on the actual wallets being linked to these different payment service provider clients of ours. And then obviously coming down to that transfer of data for travel rule and everything for us. So yeah, you guys are supporting us on the security side of things and making sure we can expand as and when needed.
Yeah, for sure. More to come, Aeryn. Thank you so much for taking the time. Maybe very last words. Where can people find you? What is the best way to engage with Xion Global?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So we are on Twitter. We're on LinkedIn. So Xion.global, Xion Global. So yeah, really just the same name throughout the different social medias. And then our site also is Xion Global directly. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, in terms of actual integrations, we're scaling fast. So soon you're going to start seeing when you link your crypto wallets to any of your very well-known payment service providers that you use on the daily, you're going to start seeing powered by Xion Global right at the bottom. Like I said, we're a plumbing and infrastructure place. So at the end of the day, you'll get little hints of where we are, but we'll always be there in the background powering the payments throughout the globe. Lots of things to cover.
Looking forward to make my first payment with you guys. Thank you so much, Aeryn, for joining, and we're looking forward to be working together.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. Great chatting.
Likewise. See you soon. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.